Dudes, ladies, guys, everyone. Here's the thing. Heath, are you being serious right now? Because I'm being serious right now.
I'm dead serious.
All right, I need serious Heath. This is serious Sid.
I'm serious. I'm ready.
All right, because, man, here's the thing. I got to tell you. I got to tell the people listening. It's a post-COVID world.
Lots has changed.
The world looks different today. And the agency has to stay relevant, has to stay competitive, has to be a little different.
Yeah, I think we have to stay ahead of the game. We have to stay ahead of what's coming. We have to know what's next.
So how do we do that?
We got to be a connected agency.
Ooh, what does that mean?
I don't know. We got to get into it, though.
Oh, let's go, baby.
Welcome to the VIP podcast.
Season 3.
Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the VIP podcast. I'm super excited you're here hanging out with us today because we've got my good friend David Watson here hanging out with us from South Carolina. He's with Mappus, and he's also got a little company called RiskAdvisor that's making a big splash in the industry, and I can't wait to talk to him about that. Welcome to the show, David Watson.
Hey, man, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. So those who weren't here earlier, we had a little bit of technical difficulties this morning, so David's been super patient with me, and I really appreciate that. And it's been, a long time you've been sitting there waiting, so I'm going to get you started and jump off with tell a little bit about who David Watson is for those who don't know. Go back as far as you want, and then take me up to now. We can kind of, get into it from there. I know I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm starting in the middle of year 12 in the insurance industry.
Oh, wow.
Early on in my career, I spent some time at some of the big nationals, jumped around a little bit, and ended up starting a scratch agency in 2016, Blue Lake Insurance. And on the agency side, I'm currently merged that in with Mappus Insurance out of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, where I'm at now, and then also, as you mentioned, on the RiskAdvisor side as well.
All right. I appreciate you, catching us up a little bit. And so South Carolina, first of all, I hear there's some nice golf out there. I see you've got a Masters, jacket on. Have you been to the Masters, and do you play a lot of golf?
Yeah, so was able to go to the Masters in 2019.
Nice.
Kind of a last-minute situation. Got a call from one of our carriers that they had a spot open up, and they knew that we were close, and we were good partners with them. So they, it's funny, from my front door on a normal day, I can get to the front gates of the Masters in probably 45 minutes. But when they called us up, they're like, hey, we know you're close, but do we need to charter a flight for you to get you there on time and things like that?
Tell me you said yes.
I immediately said no, and looking back, I'm like, yes, it would have taken longer, but I should have taken advantage of that opportunity because I don't know if I'll ever get that one again.
Dude.
But no, I didn't think that one through. And then last year, my dad won Monday practice round tickets, so got to go back last year.
Oh, that is amazing. So is it as beautiful as it looks on TV?
I've been to some other courses and some other like PGA tournaments, and those are ones where I'm like, man, it's a great experience to go once. If it's not a major, I'll probably not make a big deal about going to another one. Just watch it on TV. I enjoy like being able to watch everything. Masters, I will just go just to watch, like just walk around and just spend my day. Like when we went last year, because I had like the full day there, literally just walked the course. It was raining, but it was still beautiful. And it is phenomenal. I'll go any chance I get, I'll go.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've always wanted to go, never have been, so I had to ask you about that with the jacket on.
No,
so
absolutely.
All right, so getting back into insurance, because we are on the Vertafore Insurance Podcast, I did want to talk to you a little bit about, so all this month, we are talking about the customer journey, the customer experience, and starting off scratch. You said 17, right?
2016,
2016, starting off scratch was, having that set up in the beginning. Was that something that was important to you? Having that customer life cycle, the journey, the processes, procedures, was that something that was crucial to you in the beginning?
Yeah, so when I first got started, I spent a lot of time going through that. Probably honestly a little too much time on that, and not enough
Right?
time on actually selling insurance, which I think is a trap that young agency owners or first time business owners can sometimes fall into. But regardless of that, it's absolutely important to have that built out early on, because there's no easier time to build a repeatable process than when it's just you and you're not having to coach somebody else to follow the processes that you put in place. You're only having to coach yourself. And so that's one of the biggest things you'll see when a great agency or a great one person show starts to hire. That's what can kill success and kill, because they might be a great producer with good agency owner skills, but if they're not getting out in front of it, that can be an issue. But it was one of those things that I spent a lot of time on making sure that it was a way for me to set myself apart.
Yeah, and so I would imagine, and that's got to be something that in the beginning, it'd probably be easy as you bring people on to abandon some of those. If you get complacent, if someone comes in with prior experience or they're green and they're like, oh, we could do it this way better. But is that one of those things you had to stay diligent on?
Yeah, so my journey with that was an interesting situation, because my started Scratch in 2016, merged into Mappus in 2018, and part of the reason that conversation started was because of what I was doing with technology and automation. And so I went from the only person with Blue Lake May 31st, 2016 or 2018 to June 1st, 2018, going in as a partner in an agency that had at that time 12 to 13
Oh,
employees.
wow. Okay.
And so not only was I the new guy that nobody knew, but then also, hey, he's going to start helping build these processes, enhance what we currently have going on, and so started putting into effect these different things. So it wasn't the situation where you go from like 1 to 2. I was like, okay, I'm going 1 to 13,
Yeah.
and but it was a good learning experience because it was a situation where you had to. It was really important to sell the vision of it. It wasn't just, hey, it's just me. Now I'm hiring somebody. You're going to do it this way, or you're not going to do it at all. It was, hey, I'm the new guy, but I've got to figure out a way to share this vision that makes sense for adoption.
So when you started off in the beginning with these processes and procedures, did you start with aiming those at aiming them towards the customer experience, customer journey, or more at the internal focus of how to make your life easier, or is it kind of a combination of the both?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Very early on, when I started looking into technology inside of an insurance agency, because I went from a company that had a DOS-based system to starting my independent agency, so it
Yeah.
was a very big jump there. But one thing very early on that was always important to me was, if technology does not enhance the client relationship, then it has no place in your agency.
Boom.
And with that, that doesn't always mean that the technology that you're implementing is client facing. It could mean and should mean a lot of times that it makes your team's job easier, more efficient, so that way they don't have to focus on clicking a button. They can focus on having a conversation or whatever it might be. So when I started looking at that, there was a lot that was client facing, especially as a one person show. But there was all two. It was a situation where it was, hey, we've got some great team members, especially on the sales side. How can we start taking that to the next level, if that makes sense?
Yeah. No, it totally does. And so when you talk about using automations and using the technology to enhance the customer experience, define that for the audience from David Watson's standpoint. What does that look like, to use that kind of stuff to enhance the customer journey?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's setting the expectations. I hear a lot in conversations, and it's definitely true to a certain extent. Of, man, if you're not returning a quote within an hour or two, then you've already lost. And if you reach out to Mappus to get a quote, if it's the standard type of deal, we're promising that you're going to get that quote back within 24 hours. But if it's a high net worth or private client situation or a little bit hairy of a homeowner situation, like on the coast or on the beach or something like that, we set the expectation up front that, hey, this might be a 24 to 72 hour deal. And what we've kind of figured out from there is, hey, as long as you're honest and follow through with the expectations that you set, the time thing is not as big of a deal as we make it out to be. It's more so setting those expectations, communicating throughout the wait, and then delivering on those expectations. For what I've kind of set up in the past is having it set up to where, like, we send out the quote to a virtual assistant or a wholesale broker based on our agency, and when we get like, hey, we've sent this out to them, just wanted to let you know, keep you updated. By the way, this is an automated email, but I really wanted to kind of just keep you updated on the process. And people will respond back to that email, thanking us so much for that. I was like, in the email, it clearly states this is automated, but they just appreciate being updated.
I love that. And I was going to ask you about, so you were intentional in making sure that the email let them know ahead of time, this is automated. However, I do have, humans working on this. We're getting this working on the background, things like that. And that works pretty well then if they know up front. And you're not hiding it. You're not trying to mask it or trying to make yourself look better by doing this. You're just letting them know, hey, this is just our way of letting you know we are working on it.
Yeah, exactly. When I started building those out, like if it's from one of our producers, it's coming from them, their email signature, all that. But when I started thinking through it, I was like, you know what? Let's not try to make this feel like, oh, I'm this great person because I'm sending you a manual email that I just got off the phone with you and sent this over to the virtual assistant, or I just received it back from the wholesale broker. Let's be transparent and just let them know, but let's do it automatically and let them in on that secret. Because one, it keeps it up to date. You don't have to worry about tone or things like that. But then two, it lets them know that you're a technology driven agency, which is important for some people. So that way it sets the expectation of what they can kind of expect post sale as well.
Yeah. So when you talk about technology in your agency as it stands right now, we believe at Vertafore that the core of your tech stack is your CRM and your AMS. And then everything else out from there, kind of feeds into that and helps you with that life cycle or your employee retention or your this or your that, or just making life easier. First of all, would you agree with that? And second of all, could you tell me, what's your tech stack looking from the CRM and the agency management system? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so we're on agency Zoom on the CRM side, QQ Catalyst on the AMS side. And I do believe that it's one of those things where you look at the systems and platforms that your team members are on, are inside of every single day, having ones that are easy to use, look good. I think something that's commonly overlooked is as the insurance industry gets younger, UI and UX is that much more important because you look at it, and I think we talked about this when we got together last week or the week before, like the current generation that's moving into the insurance industry or really has been moving into it for the last 4 or 5 years is all over the phone.
Yeah.
And good UI UX is extremely important to them because that's all they've ever known. They really haven't grown up on the DOS systems or things that look terrible. And so when it comes to the user experience, we're talking about the client experience, but that's also the user experience as well. If it's not easy to use or easy to understand, then it's not going to be something that's going to be scalable because the people, the type of talent that you're getting in aren't going to be willing to use it.
Now, that being said, okay, so if we walk through, if you don't mind, if we walk through your customer's journey or UX, CX, whichever two initials you want to use. I mean, I think they're all kind of interchangeable a little bit there. But if you're walking through that, so they reach out for a quote, you give them the expectation. We start off there. They get 24 hours, or if it's high net worth, that might change a little, and you get the email. And so what happens from there? Do they get, did you set that up in Zoom to do what goes from there? How's that work, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so the first thing is if they call in, they're going to one of our service team or one of our virtual assistants is going to take in their basic information.
Okay.
And so normally looks like name, email, phone number, address. Can we text you, and how did you hear about us? And what that does is that generates through Zapier a notification in our Slack system. We've got a leads to assign channel. And what that does is we take a look at it. I don't round robin. I don't just automatically distribute. I look at the characteristics of what the risk is that's coming in, and then decide based on workload, but then also the level of the producer, who should work this account. Like if it's a $4 million house, I don't want that going to the new hire, just because of round robin setup or something like that. So we assign that through Slack, and then it automatically updates in Agency Zoom, which then notifies the producer, hey, you've got this new lead. Go ahead and reach out. And what I've coached them to do is that automatically adds the basic details into RiskAdvisor. And before they call the client, they pull up RiskAdvisor, use some of the data pre-fill and some of those things there, and they're figuring out as much as they can about this person's home, looking through the most recent Zillow listing to see, hey, man, you've got such a nice kitchen. I love that countertop or whatever it is. But it's as simple as if someone calls me and they're saying the difference between, hey, I'm showing that your house has 2,800 square feet, 2-story, roof looks great, love that kitchen, versus, hey, how many square feet is in your
Exactly. Yeah.
what type of roof do you have? The difference in quality, the difference in professionalism is it's so easy to go down the path of being better, but it's so often overlooked because people are like, oh, I got a lead, I got to call them, I got to ask these questions right away, or they're going to go to somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where people just kind of been conditioned that way, that these internet leads or whatever it is, hey, I've got to be so quick that I skip over the important details, which is building a rapport with that client.
100%.
Phone call.
And that's what we believe, at Vertafore, the technology is there to do, to help you enhance your relationships. We want to help you to power that and to do better at that and to be able to focus on that instead of, what's the age of the roof? What's the square footage? Do you have updated plumbing? Do you have updated that? And it's like, you could spend your time doing so much more things. Like you said earlier, you got a beautiful kitchen, love those updates, did you, da-da-da-da. It's wonderful to be able to do it that way. I got to rewind you a minute, because there was something in there you brought up that I thought was super interesting. You instead of a round robin, you look at their workload and look at, some of the characteristics. Is that where the reports come in from QQ or from your AMS to be able to say, or how do you figure out their workload? Is that where that comes from, or how do you do that?
Yeah, it's a combination of Slack and Agency Zoom. So the first easy thing to look at is if we haven't had a ton of activity, which thankfully isn't too often. But what we can do is I've set it up to where, like, if you've ever reacted to something in Slack or Teams, you've got like the little emojis or whatever. So I've set up custom ones where it's the headshot of each producer. And so I can quickly look back at the last week or so and see, hey, I've sent 3 leads to Jesse, sent 4 to Brooks, sent 2 to Savannah. All right, let's send this next one to Savannah. But if it's one of those things where we're getting 20, 25 in a week, I'm also then going to look, hey, what are the stages in Agency Zoom looking like? Yeah. Let's make sure that we're not someone's overworked or in a situation where they're not going to be able to get to it as quick as somebody else, or things are going to fall through the cracks. So kind of use that as a combination there.
Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking, because a lot of agencies will pull up their QQ or their AMS 360 or Sajida or whatever, and they might look at the, activities report and see, or task and see who's overdue, who's behind, but you're going more to Zoom for that, which is still, I'm sure very effective for you. And I like that idea of being able to do it that way. And so you talked about the stages in your Zoom setup. And so those that are looking at that, a lot of people ask me when I talk to them, how many stages should I set up? What should I do on that? Some people have 4, some people have 7, some people have 3. If you don't mind, can you pull the curtain back and tell me, what that looks like for you? Is it, as simple as 2 or 3, or is it pretty complicated for you guys?
Yeah, for our main pipeline, it's honestly the ones that come out of the box from
Awesome.
Agency Zoom.
Yeah.
I personally have a separate pipeline that's a little bit more in depth for myself. But the main reasoning behind that is it's great. I'm a little off the trend, maybe, where you look at it and you've got producers who there's obviously exceptions to the rules, but you've got producers who normally are really, really good on the phone, really good at chasing the sale, not really that great at following up on the details of, okay, this person needs to be in this stage or one of 15 stages at the exact time. They're always great at moving it to that sold stage as soon as they can.
You want to get paid.
Some of the other things, and I don't really see that as a detriment. I see that as a just kind of understanding that right person, right seat. And so, like, we're currently in this process of building it out a little bit more in depth. And one of the things that we're going to use is using it to where virtual assistants are helping them in that on automatically keeping things updated. So that way we can take advantage of more of those lifecycle automations on the per stage level. And really excited about some of the things we've got going on there. That's where we're going to dive even deeper on a per producer level, and really love the fact of what the flexibility that we're going to have inside of it because of what all the enhancements that have been happening on the lifecycle automation stage are set up. But it always, the first thing you need to look at when you're looking at that is what can be coached. Hey, this is part of your role, and it makes sense as part of their role, and what can you track and what can you make sure that is being done. But hey, am I just implementing a bunch of stages because that's what everybody like is out there saying, but only 3 of the 16 are actually be using? Or if they're using all of them, is it actually keeping them from making sales and making sure that you're not introducing busy work just to do it,
right,
but to enhance getting the clients to become, or getting the prospects to become clients?
Yeah, I totally get it. And that's one of the things that I try to teach a lot as well. And so I love that you do that because you don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't have to do those kind of things just to do it. And, you don't have to buy certain technology just because everybody else is doing it. Whatever works for your agency, it works for your producers, your CSRs, your account managers, whatever, that's what you should focus on. And so I'm glad that you said that. I think that's a good takeaway. And so one of the other questions I wanted to get into is for you, and maybe you can give a takeaway to the audience listening, is what would you say is the number one, or I say number one, but one of the top reasons, that sets you apart at Mappus or sets your agency apart when it comes to customer lifecycle, as opposed to the 18 other agencies down the road?
Yeah. So a big thing for us is we all know that pricing is important,
right?
But it's not the focus of our conversation. One of the biggest things that we believe in is the power of a conversation. So I mentioned the RiskAdvisor, and you mentioned it at the front end. That's really what I built RiskAdvisor for inside of Mappus when we first started with it, and now even scaled it beyond that for other agencies as well, is the power of that conversation, the power of building rapport. When you focus on having that conversation with the prospect, digging into the details, asking questions that the 18 agencies down the road aren't asking,
right,
you immediately set yourself up as the professional. And yes, there's going to be people who all they really care about is the cheapest and the quickest. Well, there's also plenty of people out there that if you actually ask the questions are actually concerned about the value and the difference of, hey, we've got value, we've got price, let's find the happy median. And what we've done with the RiskAdvisor side of things and what we've done with our process is we want to make sure that you have been presented with the options and you understand the options in a way that you can make an educated decision. And if that's simple as, hey, you've shown me you know what you're talking about, so I'm going to trust you to make, like, you tell me what I need and I'll go with it. Or, hey, I'm presenting you with what I think is the best option. Let's refine that. Oh, you want to save a little bit? Now, do we want to go with a higher deductible? Do we want to lower it a little bit? What makes the most sense for you? In the digital age, as a tech founder, it's funny because I'm talk more about the conversation than I do the technology or the relationship or the rapport. But in the digital age, not forgetting that it's so important to build rapport with your clients on the new business side, which then automatically transitions over to when it comes time for that first, second, third renewal, is so important for agencies.
Yeah.
And using that technology to enhance that is the purpose of it.
Yeah, I love that answer, and I think that's fantastic because that's exactly what the technology should be used for, is developing that relationship and enhancing that relationship. And so, and I'm glad that you brought that up, and I'm glad you brought up RiskAdvisor again because everywhere I turn now, I hear RiskAdvisor. So kudos to you on that. And, it's, again, you're doing a great job on your marketing, I guess, but I think it's also because the product's so great, and I think that people are falling in love with what you're doing, and those that are using it have seen a major difference and impact in their agencies. So, I would love for you to kind of give an overview of, what are you guys doing over there at RiskAdvisor?
Yep.
You've brought up some things, you've teased it a little bit. Just kind of give us a little bit of background on some of that. Maybe talk about what you're doing now. Feel free to talk about, anything new you got going on. Just give me a little bit on that.
Yeah, so really what we're helping out with is the guided conversation and the process that flows with that. Everybody talks about having a set process or different ways to do something inside their agency, but on the front end, we're helping guide that conversational process that, whether you've been writing insurance for 2 days or 20 years, is going to prompt you with what to ask, when to ask it, to guide it to the end result, which is getting what you need for the quote or for the quoting process. So it's a lot of if then that, but making it where literally if someone gets stuck, all they have to do is read off the next question, and it's going to be part of the conversational flow. But then on the back end, because you've connected, you gathered this, you've had that rapport building conversation that leads you to have the data that you need in the way that you need it. We also make it really simple to send that over to your CRM. We have a direct integration with Agency Zoom. Send it over to your raters. We have a direct integration with PL Rating. And then also, because they're already popular, but they're becoming even more popular, making it really easy to hand that off for the next process to your virtual assistant. One of the biggest things when it comes to implementing a virtual assistant, same as any other team member, is having that process where they can receive it in a structured way, whether it's from you or Joe down the hall. They're getting that data, that information, that quote information in the same process every single time. So that way they can just churn those quotes out as quick as possible. And then same thing for wholesale brokers, so on and so on. So front end, really conversational process that collects the data. It enables you to collect the data in a very clean fashion. And then on the back end, the second side of it is distributing that to where you have one point of entry for all your different systems that you're using.
Wow. And that sounds amazing. I love the fact you brought that up with the virtual assistants, because I think that's a crucial part of it as well. And I think no matter what the language barrier might be, that technology translates to, the Philippines, Mexico, wherever you're getting your Dominican Republic, wherever you're getting your virtual assistants. And I've noticed working with virtual assistants, a lot of them are better on technology than I am, or than some of your staff are. And so for them to be able to just jump right in, and that just got to make the training that much easier and quicker as well, and get them up to date and speed on what you're doing in your agency.
Yeah, one of the things we were very intentional about is majority of these virtual assistants, the countries they come from, one, they know they're working with an American, and it's very important to them to make their boss happy. Most of them will always call you boss, hey boss, or things like that. And so it's very important for them to make you happy, which is great. But then two, the downside sometimes is if you send over a sheet, an intake sheet, whether it's a fillable PDF or trick and scratch notes or whatever it is, and there's 25 questions on this intake sheet, but only 10 of them are answered. They're not going to take, most of the time, they can be trained out of this, or if you've got a super high level one, this is obviously the exception. But most of the time, what we found is you have 15 questions. Yes, that are not answered. They're going to try to go find them a little bit, but they don't want to make a mistake. So they're going to ask you for more information because you left that blank. So one of the things we are very intentional with is what you send over to them is complete, whether that means, hey, you did a complete submission and there's literally nothing else that could have been sent, which is there's always more. But if it's not answered or if it's not relevant, we don't show them that blank question on what we send over to them. So that way it removes that barrier of, oh my gosh, I don't know the answer to this. What am I going to do? It allows them to focus on the complete answers and the complete information in the way that they're going to be able to consume it and use it.
And then they can get that back, as quick as possible, and you can continue on with that customer life cycle we were talking about and getting those expectations met. And so this has been a great conversation. And from what I'm understanding from you, if I break down in simple terms, because I have to do that, I'm in Arkansas. I'm not in South Carolina where the smart people are, but your definition in working in customer experience, customer journey comes down to expectations and relationship.
Yep.
And using technology to enhance both of those.
Yeah, you asked earlier about how to set yourself apart from 18 agencies down the street. We live in a world where two of the things that are most often broken are expectations and relationships. 100%. We live in a broken world. I won't go too deep down that path, but when you live in a place and the expectation now is for you to not follow through on expectations and to try not to build an actual relationship with someone or build rapport with someone. Yeah. So the easiest way to set yourself apart is to follow through on your expectations and to build rapport with someone when they're not used to getting that from anyone else in a service industry.
Dude, that so well said. I may have to end on that note. I truly appreciate you coming in. Thank you for spending time with us, audience. Thank you for jumping in, hanging out with me and David Watson. And David, if you'll let them know if they wanted to get in touch with you about RiskAdvisor, if you'll give them that real quick before I sign us off.
Absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find me at david@riskadvisor.insure. If you're just wanting to follow along, LinkedIn is going to be the most professional setting. Facebook, a little bit of a mixture. If you want to listen to bad sports takes in addition to technology, Twitter is the best place, or X, excuse me. Right. But if you just want to reach out, david@riskadvisor.insure.
Thank you again, and thank you guys for joining us. Season 3, we have gotten us kicked off. We are in the middle of our month of customer experience. Stay with us as we continue in this conversation, and join us next week. Subscribe, go to our LinkedIn, like what we've got going on there, and check us out on YouTube, and find us anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one. Well, that was a great episode.
Amazing. It was an amazing episode.
I really enjoyed that content. Guys, if you enjoyed that content and you want more of it, make sure you hit the subscribe button.
Nah, dude. You got to tell them to crush it. Crush that subscribe button, guys.
All right. Whether you want to crush it, smash it, hit it.
Bop it?
Sure, we could bop it. Either way, guys, we don't want you to miss another episode. We enjoy spending time with you, the VIP.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.